From the studios of Staten Island Community Television, you're watching In the Bleachers, the TV show for the world's most passionate sports fans. Hello, everyone. I'm Jaime Hixson. Usually you hear from my friend Hector Boza, but to be quite honest with you, I'm not really sure where he is right now. He's supposed to be on the phone at this moment, but knowing him, he probably drunk himself into a stupor once again and got himself all passed out. Leave it to this guy to always be the party pooper that he is. Oh well, looks like I'm going to have to take this thing solo until he finally decides to wake up and call in. If he does call in and he sounds like he's got a little slurred speech, you're going to have to excuse him because obviously he must have had a really ridiculous weekend, hitting on so many women, and then the women either turning their backs on him or probably smacking him in the face the way they always do, which is contrary to what he always calls himself as the sexiest man on cable access TV. In the meantime, let's talk about some of the stuff that's been going on in the past week, or more along the lines of the past 2 or 3 weeks. This NBA offseason has become extremely unpredictable. This could be probably one of the best NBA offseasons that we've had in a long, long time. You've got Kevin Durant going to the Nets, Kyrie Irving joining him, Kawhi Leonard leaving Toronto to return closer to home to play for the Clippers, Paul George forcing a trade to join him on the Clippers. You also have Russell Westbrook and Chris Paul being traded for each other, so now Westbrook is going to be in the same backcourt with James Harden. That is going to be really, really interesting to watch because you have two alpha males who want the ball every single time. And whereas Harden winds up dominating the ball the entire time, Westbrook still needs the ball to be effective, yet has a little bit more athleticism than Harden does. And it was because of Harden's insistence on getting the ball every time that it wound up breaking up the duo of himself and Chris Paul. Now, there's been some talk about what's going to happen with Paul. Is he going to stay in Oklahoma City, or is he going to be traded? Right now, I would say there was maybe a 60 to 40 chance that Paul winds up getting traded, simply because he needs to be on a really solid team in order to be effective. Of course, the last 2 years now, he's been really plagued by injuries, and he has not been effective on the court when he has come back from those maladies. So now it's just a matter of time before we see exactly what happens with Paul. One stop for him that might make a little sense is maybe Miami. If you see him and Jimmy Butler working in the backcourt, I actually think that the Heat will be a much stronger team for it. Now, in the event that he stays in Oklahoma City, it's not like he's going to be working with a bunch of scrubs. I mean, he does have some pretty decent players that he's going to be working with. Guys like Steven Adams and also Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who was sent to OKC in the Paul George deal. So there are some good young players that Paul will be able to work with, but it has become extremely obvious that after multiple failed attempts at winning a championship, OKC is now in rebuild mode. And they've got a ton of draft picks that they're going to be working with after making all of those deals in an effort to try and look ahead to the future. I want to see if I can look up all of these Oklahoma City draft picks and show you exactly what their thinking is for the future. Right now, check out the list of draft picks that they have. Next year, they're going to have their own first rounder, which is protected between picks number 1 and 20, and their own second rounder, which is top 55 protected. And they're also going to have the Nuggets first round pick. That's 3 draft picks next year. 3 more draft picks in 2021. 2 of their own and one of the Heat's first round picks. There's 3 more in 2022. There's 2 of their own and the Clippers first rounder. Then in 2023, 3 more draft picks. Their own, the Heats, and 1 each of the Thunder and Clippers. Then in 2024, there is 4 draft picks that they're going to be owning. 2 of their own, 1 that belong to the Grizzlies, and 1 that belong to the Clippers. And then in 2025, they have their own, and they have Thunder and the Clippers. And then in 2026, they have 2 of their own and the Clippers first round pick. So when you look at it, they're going to be in great hands for the future. And it could be that they may still want to compete. There's not going to be any tanking on their side. They're going to want to compete and still try to make themselves really presentable for the future. Now, as far as what's going on here with the Nets and the Knicks, well, we just saw that the Nets wound up signing another big man, which was the one-time Knick, Henry Ellenson. He got a 2-way deal, which means he's going to be spending time between Brooklyn and their G League team on Long Island. Ever since he wound up getting drafted 3 years ago, he has not necessarily distinguished himself. He's been a low shooter. He's got a low shooting percentage. Although this past season, when he played for the Knicks, he did shoot 44% from three-point range. So at least his long-range shooting ability is keeping him in the league somewhat. And with the fact that Kevin Durant is going to be missing all of next year because he's still going to be rehabbing from his torn Achilles, there's a strong possibility that Ellenson might be able to get a little bit of playing time. And then the Nets also signed the one-time LA Laker, David Nwaba, to strengthen their backcourt. So you can obviously see that the Nets are really looking ahead to next season and the season after to finally try and win that elusive NBA title. And you see how the entire league is stacked up right now. I can honestly say that there is no clear-cut favorite to try and win the 2020 NBA title. I will say this, though. If you want to talk contenders, in the East, you've got the Sixers, who now have Al Horford playing the middle, and they're going to be really dangerous with Horford and Joel Embiid in the same front line. The Celtics now have Kemba Walker, and I think he's going to make their backcourt really better, and they still have that really promising duo of Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum to work with as well. The Raptors, I think you can pretty much eliminate them from the conversation, even though they still have the kid from Villanova, which is, I guess his name will come up a little bit later. Kyle Lowry is the kid that I'm thinking of. As far as the Knicks and the Nets are concerned, the Nets will definitely be in the conversation to be a playoff contender. The Knicks, in spite of all of the changes that they've made, you got to look at them piece by piece. Right now, their two best players are Mitchell Robinson, who was second-team All-Rookie and also was one of the top 5 shot blockers in the league, and of all people, one of the many guys that they signed, Julius Randle. The Knicks are now going to try and base their hopes for next season on Julius Randle, who's not a terrible player. I mean, he's a great low-post scorer, but he does not defend worth a lick. And he's not necessarily great shooting the ball from 3. Or from mid-range, for that matter. But he dominates in the low post, so the Knicks are going to have to feed him the ball in the low post in order to try and get any buckets. Other than that, they got a hodgepodge of guys who basically were discarded from places elsewhere. Guys like Wayne Ellington, who's an ex-Knick, an ex-Net, I should say. There's also Elfrid Payton, who's a pretty decent athlete. A guard. There's also, obviously, they're going to have to pin all of their hopes on next year on their number 1 pick, R.J. Barrett, who I still think has a chance to be one of the top players in this game if he is used properly. Now, as far as anybody else who might be able to contend in the Eastern Conference, now that the Pacers have brought in Malcolm Brogdon from the Bucks, you team him up with a 100% healthy Victor Oladipo, I think the Pacers have a strong chance of going to the Eastern Conference Finals next season. Other than that, Milwaukee, I still think is strong enough to make it all the way to the conference finals or maybe the NBA Finals, even in spite of the fact that Brogdon has left Milwaukee. They still have Chris Middleton. They still have Giannis Antetokounmpo, who, by the way, is going to be the next big-ticket free agent in about 2 years. The South Division is going to be really, really tough to try and figure out. Orlando was the division champion last year, yet they were just a 7 seed. That just goes to show you how poor that division is. But now that the Heat have Jimmy Butler, if they can add maybe one more star, the Heat might be able to contend a little bit more than they did this past season. As far as the Western Conference, I think Dallas is going to be a little bit better now that Luka Doncic is going to have Kristaps Porzingis to work with on the front line. San Antonio is still going to be dangerous. Houston's going to be really dangerous with Harden and Westbrook in the same backcourt. As far as the rest of the Western Conference, both LA teams are going to be so much fun to watch this year because you look at who LeBron now has to work with. He's got Anthony Davis, whom they acquired from the Pelicans. He's got DeMarcus Cousins. That is a deadly front line that they're going to have next season. As far as the Clippers have a little bit more athleticism to them than the Lakers do. With George and also Leonard and so many other really tough players like Lou Williams, who's now the 2-time defending 6th man of the year, you can honestly say that the Clippers possibly have a chance at contending for a Western Conference title and maybe an NBA title. Golden State is going to be in transition because now it's just going to be Steph Curry and Draymond Green working together next season while Klay Thompson comes back from his knee surgery. He's going to be rehabbing from a knee surgery that he wound up undergoing after hurting himself trying to get a rebound in the NBA Finals. Other than that, Sacramento might have a chance to improve finally this season. Utah, Portland, Denver, those guys are going to be very dangerous to watch for. So those are going to be your main suspects that are going to be possibly contending for an NBA title. As far as who is the better team here in the New York area, the Nets or the Knicks, that pretty much speaks for itself. The Nets have been the better team for the last year or so, and now having two superstars to work with, in addition to their usual suspects like Jared Allen and Joe Harris and Spencer Dinwiddie, the Nets are going to be extremely dangerous for teams to play against next season. Now, as far as what else has been going on this summer, since it's July, we already know that training camp in the NFL is right around the corner. And as far as what's going to be going on here in training camp with the Jets and the Giants, I can honestly say that the Giants are going to have a very, very, very long 2019 season. And to make matters worse, one of the guys that they wound up having on their roster, Cameron Moore, now suspended after getting arrested for a domestic violence incident just last week. Apparently, he was kicking and punching some poor girl at a place in New Jersey. So, let me tell you that it's not going to be any loss for the Giants, especially when what this idiot did wound up getting him kicked out. Now, as far as what's going to be happening with the Giants as a whole, it's year one without Odell Beckham Jr., so now it's looking more and more like the main focus is going to be who the quarterback is going to be this coming season. Is it going to be Eli Manning, or is it going to be their number one pick, Daniel Jones? If you ask some of the guys on the Giants, they'll tell you that Eli Manning has a lot more left in the tank than he's given credit for. But I can honestly say, without a shadow of a doubt, I think it's about time for the Giants to maybe move on from Eli, even in spite of the fact that he's got one more year left in his deal. Daniel Jones is got to be the guy that the Giants have to turn to for their future, regardless of what his skill set is or not. And from what I understand, Jones has actually been looking pretty solid in camp. So let's see exactly what happens here. And also there's the matter of who's going to be the guy that the quarterback, be it Manning or Jones, is going to throw to. They signed Golden Tate to team up along with Sterling Shepard. Golden Tate is a nice possession receiver, but he is not a go-to guy in the least. So it's looking more and more like they're going to have to get the ball over to Sterling Shepard a little bit more often. And there's also the matter of Saquon Barkley. He had an outstanding rookie season last year. Now defenses are going to be focusing on him now that they don't have a number one receiver to work with. Could this maybe stretch the field for Shepard and maybe Tate to try and catch some passes? We're going to have to wait and see. There's also the matter of their offensive line. There's John Hernandez, who's going to be coming back from his knee surgery from last season. Yeah, that's right. So let's see exactly how that offensive line is going to work itself out after having maybe 2 dreadful seasons. And before we move on, I wanted to also mention a really shocking death in the Giants family, and that was the one of Jared Lorenzen. A lot of Giant fans remember Jared Lorenzen as the Hefty Lefty. Well, I actually remember him as not only the Hefty Lefty, but the guy who wound up starting for the University of Kentucky for 4 seasons. Unfortunately, he died of multiple health issues, a lot of which had to do with his weight. He was called the hefty lefty for a reason. There was a time when he once weighed 300 pounds while playing quarterback for the Giants. Not only that, but he even continued his football career in the semi-pro circuit. He even played semi-pro indoor football for quite a few years. And there was an ESPN story that was done about him a few years ago in which he acknowledged not only having this weight problem, but also at the same time still thinking that he could play the game. Well, unfortunately, his health issues finally caught up to him. Just recently, he weighed about as much as 400 pounds. And unfortunately, he wound up being found dead at his place in Kentucky of multiple heart and kidney issues. And the worst part about it was he was only 38 years old. He never got a chance to really enjoy his retirement from the game. So we're going to have to send out condolences to Lorenzen's family. We certainly hope that they can maintain some privacy at this time, because this was a pretty sad situation that Lorenzen had, having to really battle all those weight issues just to try and keep himself in the game. Now, as far as the Jets are concerned, that team, I can tell you, is a squad that is going to really think big this season. They're already thinking big, because not only do they have a quarterback to work with in the future, but they also have Le'Veon Bell in the backfield, and they also brought in quite a few other newcomers from elsewhere. So it's gotten to the point where the Jets now have a strong possibility of making a name for themselves this season. And, of course, they're working with a brand new head coach, Adam Gase. So let's see exactly what the Jets can do this year. Now, if the Jets are going to try and do anything, I'm not even going to say make the playoffs, because it's not a guarantee that they'll do anything coming out of that division, especially a division that continues to be dominated by the Patriots. And say what you will about Tom Brady, whether he's slowing up a step or not, Tom Brady can still throw the ball with accuracy, with strength, and he can still be a clutch player. We saw that in the Rams game last year, where he made quite a few clutch plays. So whether you think of him as washed up or not, I'll leave that up to you. But this guy can still play the game. And don't be surprised if you see him last another 2 more years after this. And then after that, not sure if they're going to admit to wanting to rebuild, but they never ever really look ahead anyway. So right now they're going to try and defend that 6th title of theirs. As far as what's going on elsewhere in the NFL, there's the matter of who the real contenders are going to be in each conference. In the AFC, the Patriots are still the team to beat, hands down, even in spite of the fact that Rob Gronkowski retired. There's still some weapons for Brady to work with, one of which is Julian Edelman. And if you saw the match game over the weekend in which Edelman wound up playing against his now former teammate, Rob Gronkowski, it was obvious that they were having a lot of fun last night. But still, the Patriots are going to be getting by with a really strong running game because they have a plethora of running backs to work with. They're going to get by with underrated defense. They're going to get by with a really strong offensive line, and they're going to get by with Tom Brady. And right now, that entire AFC East, after them, is dreadful. Quite frankly, I'll be surprised if Miami makes it to 500 this season. I know that they're working with a new head coach, Brian Flores, and they also have a new quarterback of the future, I might add, Josh Rosen, who they got from the Cardinals. Buffalo's going to be really bad. I still am not a Josh Allen fan. I think he's fool's gold, and quite frankly, I think he's misplaced playing in Buffalo. The only thing that could probably get them through is maybe LaShawn McCoy and possibly some defense. As for the Central Division, or maybe I should say the North Division, as for the AFC North Division, right now, it's anybody's guess who's going to be winning the division there. I think Baltimore has gotten better at quarterback. Cincinnati is painfully on the decline. The team to watch for now, believe it or not, is the Browns. Last year, we saw what their young quarterback, Baker Mayfield, can do in a full season. And he was this close to taking the Browns to the playoffs. But now that he has some weapons to work with, like Odell Beckham Jr., like Jarvis Landry, like that two-headed running back that they have in the backfield, and also some really, really strong defense, something tells me this could be finally the year that the Browns make the playoffs, either as a division champion or as a wild card. The South Division is going to be the best division probably in all of football this season. You've got the Colts. You've got the Texans, who were last year's division champion. The Colts made it to the second round last year. Now, the Colts, not only do they have Andrew Luck, but they're also working with a much younger running back combo this time, and also T.Y. Hilton in the slot to catch passes with. And defensively, they've gotten so much better as well. They finally got an offensive line to work with, too. So this could finally be the year that maybe the Colts win that AFC South Division. Do not count out Houston. They've gotten so much better at quarterback with Deshaun Watson. If he can play a full season, they might be able to overtake the Colts and win the division. After that, there's the Tennessee Titans, who are really strong in the running game, really strong on defense, but I still worry about their quarterback, which is the kid from Oregon, Marcus Mariota. So it's going to be really interesting what the Titans do there. Don't even count out the Jaguars either. They now have they've got an upgraded quarterback, Nick Foles, who's going to have a real big chance to prove himself that he's not just a good quarterback playing for the Eagles, that he can do this thing playing someplace else. And he's going to have Leonard Fournette to hand the ball to in the backfield. And defensively, they're going to be really solid. So that division right there, I can honestly say, is very, very up for grabs. Out west, though, this looks like San Diego's chance to win that Western Division. And let me tell you, the Chargers right now could be the best team in the AFC West because the Raiders are rebuilding, the Broncos are rebuilding, the Chiefs, even though they still have Patrick Mahomes at quarterback, they got so much weaker defensively. And last year was a major disappointment for them defensively, especially after getting shredded in the Patriot game in the AFC title game. This could finally be the chance for the Chiefs to maybe do something in the AFC. Even though they went to the AFC title game last year, they got really, really exposed defensively. And they're going to get really exposed defensively this season. They really need to try and look for some guys so they could easily improve themselves for this season and next year. And they wound up losing a whole bunch of guys, too. Tyrann Mathieu left. Actually, they wound up signing Tyrann Mathieu. Tyrann Mathieu, they wound up signing from the Houston Texans. So maybe they'll improve. He can improve them by himself in the secondary. But other than that, D Ford's been traded, and so many, and a couple of other guys wound up leaving as well. So this could be down to the Chargers and the Chiefs. I say the Chargers win the AFC West this year. As far as the NFC, right now, the Western Division of the NFC is going to look really, really strong. You can count out Arizona. They're going to have Kyler Murray, the rookie, to be their quarterback, their everyday quarterback. He has a chance to be a really good player, but Arizona is doing another rebuilding method right now. So it's down to the Seahawks and the Rams and even the 49ers, because now that they're going to have Jimmy Garoppolo 100%, this is the 49ers' chance to make a big, big name for themselves. And they also wound up getting D Ford to play on defense as well. So let's see exactly how good the 49ers are in a really, really strong division. The Seahawks are going to be a little bit weaker. They still have Russell Wilson at quarterback, but they're going to be extremely thin at receiver, on defense as well, especially in the secondary. Probably the team to watch would have to be the Rams. Even though the year after a Super Bowl appearance is when a team usually goes on the downside, something tells me that the Rams are still going to be able to be a player in this NFC title race. Even with Jared Goff and also their running back from Georgia, Todd Gurley, also Brandon Cooks at receiver, the Rams are still extremely strong, offensively and defensively as well. As far as the Eastern Division, this looks to be another battle between the Cowboys and the Eagles. And I'm a little worried about what the Eagles are going to be now that Carson Wentz is going to be taking the snaps from center for himself. But we do know who's going to be taking the snaps from center for the Cowboys. It's Dak Prescott, and he's going to have, once again, Ezekiel Elliott to work with. Plus, they have their tight end back from retirement. So they're going to be really dangerous, and who knows? Maybe even the Cowboys wind up going another round this time. We're going to have to wait and see. If the Eagles want to be able to contend for that division title, Carson Wentz has to stay healthy for the entire season, because after him, all bets are off. I'll tell you right now. As for the North Division, exactly who can you really pick to be a clear-cut winner? We know that last year it was the Bears that wound up winning the division, but they were a real disappointment in the playoffs. They wound up losing a major. They wound up losing by a missed field goal in last year's playoffs. So now they're going to have to see if they can bounce back from that disappointing loss. There is still a lot of hope for them. I mean, there's still Mitch Trubisky at quarterback, Jordan Howard at running back. The defense is still really powerful with Khalil Mack, who was easily their most valuable player last season. But who is going to be able to contend with the Bears in the North this year? Minnesota? As inconsistent as Kirk Cousins is, I cannot bet on Minnesota to do anything. To do anything this season. Green Bay, I do think that Aaron Rodgers will be able to be back 100% healthy, but other than that, they lost a lot of guys defensively, so it's going to be really tough for them to try and make a mark. As for the South, this is the New Orleans Saints division to try and win this year. After them, Carolina, I think, is 50-50 at best. Tampa is dreadful. And also, Atlanta, they have a chance to bounce back this year because they're still strong offensively. With Matt Ryan and Julio Jones and Devontae Freeman, it's gonna be the defense that's gonna try and pick up their end of the slack in order for the Falcons to do anything this year. Now, as far as what is going on in Major League Baseball, I actually went to the Yankee game over the weekend with my dad, which was the 4-2 game yesterday, and we had such a wonderful time. Going through Yankee Stadium and walking around and seeing all the sights is just a beautiful, beautiful thing for my dad and I to see. And I just got word from Kenny Graham on the other side of the glass that Hector is calling in. And as we speak, this idiot accidentally hangs up the phone on us. I think he's drunk calling me, if I'm not mistaken. Leave it up to him to always just screw everything up. I mean, it's just unbelievable what this guy does. Kenny's trying to make a call right now. All right.
Hi. I just wanted to speak to the person that is not there. Hector Bosa, is he there?
Hector, cut it out! Come on!
Cable access TV.
Give me a break, dummy.
The one that's supposed to be the greatest minds of all time.
Yeah, more like the greatest goofball of all time.
So, Jamie, what have you been talking about since I have been away? Did you know one thing? That CC Sabathia wants to go into the Yankee system, and he actually wants to be in management after this year?
Yeah, because he and Brian Cashman talk quite a bit. So there's a strong possibility that maybe he could serve in an advisory role or maybe become some other type of front office executive. My guess would be he would be an advisor once his playing days are over.
Now, there is one thing I'd like to figure out, and that is I'd like for somebody to challenge the Yankees on one thing.
Which is?
And that is, if I'm a free agent and I have a beard and I have long hair and they want me and I refuse to cut off my beard and hair, even though I'm the best pitcher in the world, I wonder if they would allow me to pitch with those conditions.
They'll never allow it. They have a strict beard and hair policy. It hasn't changed ever since they first instituted the policy, and it's not going to change now.
But I'm wondering if they would change it.
No.
You know why? Because if you know how you always say if they need someone really badly. They have you. If you go to that team, no one's ever challenged them. You know, they've challenged them to some degree, but they haven't really challenged them. Like I've never heard anybody say, "Well, if I go to the Yankees, they're going to have to. My stipulations are this, and if these stipulations aren't this way, that's it. I'm not playing there." Now, if the Yankees want them, they'll either go, you know what? I don't care if you're the best pitcher in the league or the best hitter in the league. If you don't confine by our rules, I wonder, let's say if Manny Machado was available, he had a beard that he don't want to get rid of, but he wants to play for the Yankees, but his condition is, okay, you want me for, let's say, 4 years at this amount of money. Okay, but I don't shave off my beard. I wonder if they would go, you know what? The best hitter in baseball, do we keep him? Or, you know what? If you want to play for us, you have to shave.
Hector, I just told you they're not going to keep this going. They're going
No,
to
no,
keep
I'm
that
just
policy. It has
I know
not
this,
changed, and it won't ever change.
I know.
No
the
one
policy.
is going to challenge them on that because, quite frankly, it's an unnecessary and minuscule issue.
No, it's not. Not for some people that like beer.
It is to them.
No, for them it is. But I'm saying in general, for people that like beers, like some of these pitchers that are out there that have beards and so on, some of them go, you know what? I'm not conforming. I'm just saying that nobody's ever challenged them on it.
Then they're not signing.
I mean, you have never heard. I know what the rules and regulations are with the Yankees, but I'm saying to you that you have never heard of anybody going, you know what, you want me, you got to take me as I am, or you don't play for me. That's it.
You know why? You know why they're not challenging them on that subject? Because they're going to refuse to do that anyway. They'll take their services someplace else.
You know what? Maybe they will. That's all. And did you know Tanaka's retiring? I think after this year.
What are you talking about?
Oh, Tanaka. Well, what's his name? I forgot the pitcher. He pitched yesterday. What is it?
Which pitcher are you talking about?
Oh, man. I forgot the Asian guy's name. Oh.
Anyway, I was at the Yankee game yesterday.
Oh, yeah. How was it?
The game was wonderful. The weather was wonderful. My dad enjoyed himself the entire time, and it was a great, great Yankee win. They made a couple of changes to the inside of the place.
Really? How so?
They wound up adding a few more, artifacts to the Great Hall. For example, they have an astronaut, a statue of an astronaut on one of the levels. And also,
they're doing better than the Mets. I mean, you know what's one nice thing about the Yankees?
Yeah.
That it's circular. You could actually walk from, I don't know if is it the Yankees or the Mets Stadium, where it's actually, no, it's Yankee Stadium, where it's very circular. You could actually walk from one end and just walk a circle.
That's right.
Where at Shea, even though they have Shake Shack,
the Yankee Stadium has Benihana.
I'd rather have Shake Shack, believe it or not. They got better burgers. But they just cost too much. But, at least hey, did you know that football starts next week? And in 2 weeks,
Training camp and football starts next week. The preseason games are gonna start in August. And it's interesting that you mentioned the schedule, because one other thing that's been going on in the NFL is the hot button issue of the 18-game season. The players refuse it. The owners want it. The players are going to continue to refuse to play an 18-game season.
Right.
Simply because 16 games is long enough for them. And you include training camp in July and preseason games in August. They're at camp. What is it? 7 months out of the season?
Well, here's the thing. Let's go by that assumption for a moment, because
that's not even including the May camps.
I heard about that talk too. And to counter that, if they would probably dwindle it to 17 and then have 2 preseason games and that's it, or even 1. Now, for the veterans, it's no problem. You know, the preseason games are for those that are trying to make the team or that are trying to make themselves look good out there, so that in case there are other teams that want them. Mm-hmm. Now, for those that have automatic contracts, they don't have to do it. They know they got a job. So that's one of the problems that you're having. Second problem is, with all this head-banging stipulation about, football's bad for you, and
CTE.
yeah, CTE, and you want 18 games, and you want them to play preseasons and mini. I'm sure they would go and say, you know what, let's play the 17.
I don't even think they want 17 games. They want to keep it at 16.
No, wait a minute. Listen to this, because this they play how many preseasons? 3 or 4?
They've always played 4 preseason games.
Okay, so this is probably one of the solutions they can throw at them. We'll play 17 games, but we only play 2 preseason games.
They still won't do it.
I'm just saying that's probably the counter offer that the NFL, if they want to do it, if the football players want to do
they're
it.
not going to accept a 17-game season. I'm telling you, they're adamant about this.
Listen to me. If it happens, I'm not saying it's not. I'm agreeing with you. I'm just going by the assumption that if it does happen, that one of the possibilities that they can hold their heads on, they can say, okay, you got to give us more money from the TV, and also you got to cut down on the preseason, because they don't want to do preseason. Because look at what listen to what you said. You said they had to do minicamp, preseason, and then play the games. How do you expect? It's bad enough that they're doing all that at certain time periods. They don't want to do all that. So I agree with you. I think it should be, I'm sure the football fan wants to see 17 games, 18 games. But even the football fan doesn't even want to see preseason. Well, the only good thing about preseason is that me and you can get tickets, and we could actually, for those people that have never been to a preseason, a football game in general, could actually get cheaper seats.
Well,
and watch actually a game.
It's funny that you mention wanting more money, because there are players who are ripping the NBA because their players are making a ton of money. When you've got Damian Lillard, who just played in his first Western Conference final, signing a deal which is going to pay him $49 million a year. Don't you think that the players are going to want to balk over them not getting enough?
Is that guaranteed contracts?
That is a guaranteed contract. 4 years, $49 million a year.
Well, here's the thing. First of all, it's 2 different sports. You got 4 different type of sports. They should all equally, if the owners are getting paid through TV and through the ownership or merchandise and so on, because I'm sure the players don't get no merch out of it unless they put that on their agreement. Because, not for nothing, some of those contracts are as big as the Bible. And then some, okay? Those contracts are not, they're as big as the Bible. I'm telling you flat out now. They're nothing to joke about.
Yeah.
So, in that situation, I look at it, well, the NBA does have a risk, because every sport has a risk. Now, you can say football is more violent. They deserve more money. Who deserves more? Which sport deserves the most money, you think?
Which deserves the most money of those 2?
Yeah. No, I'm saying in all the 5 or 6 sports that are out there, major sports out there. I'm including soccer, hockey, all them. Which one is the most dangerous that they should be paid the most?
By far, the NFL is the most dangerous. But as far as who should be paid the most?
Yeah, because some hockey players will tell you, no. We may have pads, but we hit harder. We're on ice. And then soccer players will go, no. Wait, we have our legs on the line, and we have our heads too, because that soccer ball is no joke. So you have all these people complaining, hey, wait a minute, my sport is more dangerous than yours. Baseball. It may look nonchalant, but anybody that knows baseball and played baseball is worried about getting spiked.
Football and
worried about
hockey
hitting.
are definitely extremely dangerous contact sports, but you can argue that baseball is pretty dangerous as well. There was a player who died from being hit in the head back in the 20s or 30s.
But every sport is dangerous.
And of course, there's the famous collisions that take place at home plate.
Exactly. And I'm just saying in general, every sport is dangerous, okay? So how do you justify money by going and saying, well, if this guy's getting paid more, and then they're saying, but my sport is much more dangerous than their sport, then I should be getting paid more.
Well, not only is there a question of safety, athlete safety, there's also the matter of whose union is stronger.
Baseball is the first.
Yeah, baseball
is the first
by
strongest
far.
union of all time.
The union runs the major leagues. You would think that the owners would run the major leagues or the commissioner. The players run that sport, hands down. There's a reason why Major League Baseball has not had a work stoppage since 1995. Coming up on 25 years now.
Next year may be this work stoppage. Next year, because I think the baseball contract ends next year.
Well, I certainly hope. 2 years. I certainly hope that the players can really come to their senses this time, because when you've got Bryce Harper making over $300 million across 13 years, or Manny Machado making $300 million across 10 years, and neither of them have won a championship, it gets to be a little bit outrageous seeing guys make so much money. Why are there relief pitchers who are only being paid to get one out, making $5 to $10 million a year?
Because it's a specialty now. Remember, back then, things were not special. And remember one thing. Who was the first reliever that was inducted into the Hall of Fame?
The first real reliever?
Yep.
It was either Catfish Hunter. No, not Catfish Hunter. It was either Goose Gossage or I think it was Goose Gossage that made the Hall of Fame.
No, I think it was the guy he used to play for Tony La Russa. But he
Dennis
was a
Eckersley.
starter
Dennis Eckersley.
Dennis Eckersley. Okay, fine. Let's use it. Look how long it took them to get a relief pitcher in there.
From the
time baseball started to the time he got inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame.
And now two more are going to get inducted at the end of the month, Lee Smith and Mo.
But my thing is, at the time, they didn't care about relief pitching. They gave you just straight salary.
Mm-hmm.
Look at the salaries back then and now. Now everything is a specialty. Like, when was the last guy? Who was the last pitcher that actually won 9 innings? This year.
Recently?
Yeah, this year.
I know Masahiro Tanaka had a complete game not too long ago. Noah Syndergaard had a complete game not too long ago.
Okay, how many of them? Normally in the 70s, people will say that back in the 50s, 60s, 70s, even the 20s and 30s, they used to throw their arms out.
Yeah.
And still pitch the next day.
They threw about 20 or 30 complete games a year.
Exactly.
Now you're lucky if you get about 5 a year.
Exactly. And the most that a pitcher will last is 6 innings. Before it used to be, well, if he can give us at least 7 to 8 innings, then we can go into the bullpen. Now if he can give us 5 innings, then we can go into the bullpen. 5. Look how far it went down. It went from 8 innings or 7 innings. Oh, if he can give us 5. That's ridiculous. They have them on pitch counts and so on. So now everything has become a speciality to the point where they're saying, okay, well, if this is a special, we should get treated as a special now. Because now they're starting to acknowledge those specialities.
Yeah.
Like a reliever, like a middle reliever. So, and it's a different era. We're in the era of specialities. We're so damn PC and so specific on certain things that we have to put a towel on it so that we can get money for it. I mean, I'm surprised they don't have a statistic on how much they scratch their balls and spit, you know, in baseball. I'm sure they do. But for betting, for gamblers, but this is my whole point. It's a stat thing.
Yep.
This is a speciality. That's just plain and simple. It's just a plain and simple thing. So this is what happens. So, you know, baseball is one of the strongest unions, but will they be a work stoppage? Maybe, because
there's
again,
a strong possibility of a work stoppage in football. That I know.
Yeah.
And money's going to be the driving force.
Right. And you know where they keep on talking about? The TV revenue. The TV revenue.
Mm-hmm.
Because TV gets so much money that the NBC, let's say, pays them a bulk of money. Let's say for 4 years. Well, they're saying that we should get a piece of that since we're the ones putting a lot. This is the way college kids go. They're getting free schooling for a 4-year scholarship, but they're the ones putting their bodies on the line. They're the ones that are putting their faces on CDs, DVD games that they're not making any money off this.
Yeah.
When they have a popular guy and they're selling their shirts, do you think the player's getting it? No, it's the damn school that's getting it.
Yeah.
So it's the same way. Everybody wants to get a cut of the TV revenue. So if that's the case, the owners are saying no. We can only give you, instead of going, okay, 60-40, 70-30.
It should be 50-50. That's what it should be.
No, it'll never.
Then that's the problem with them.
I wish the world that we lived in was that of a utopia, but it's not that way. Because the more money that people have, the greedier they get, because they don't want to lose that status. You know, they don't want. If you have money, let's say you live in a mansion and you have maids and so forth, you want to live that way through the rest of your life. And if a cent goes down, you go from a mansion to a duplex, or that's a step down. That's horrific to the person. But that's what I'm getting at. So it gets ridiculous with money.
Yep.
So there may be, and if there's a football stoppage, can it take the hit? If a baseball stoppage comes, baseball can't take the hit because of what happened last time. They're already losing. I mean, baseball is not as popular as it used to be. Basketball has become the face now because basketball is known how to, and it's cheap to play.
I hate to tell you this, but we're less than a minute to go, and we got to get on out of here.
All right. Well, Jamie, thank you very much for everything. Sorry I was late, but you know what's going on.
Of course.
So I will talk to you later, and take care, everybody. I'm gone.
All right. And thanks to Kenny on the other side of the glass. For everyone here, I'm Jamie. Good night, everyone.